Hi everyone, this is Dr. Mike, host of the free iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike, but that's how I'm here today. This is another Saving Savvy episode, and this time we're going to compare two very similar cameras that have a $100 price difference. The cheaper one is the Sony WX500. The little bit more expensive one is the Sony HX90. If you look at them, you can see they're in identical cases. They have identical controls on the back, and they both feature this very nice and clever selfie kind of tilty screen. So very similar as far as the sensor is a 1/2.3 backlit CMOS sensor with 18 megapixels that are effective. The super zoom, which is 30 times zoom, pretty much the same lens. The processor is the same. So you would expect pretty similar, if not identical, picture quality. So what is the difference, and why would you want to spend $100 more? Or why would you not want to spend $100 more? Well, there are some physical differences between the two cameras. So some additions that the HX90 has includes this kind of nice grip. I don't know if you can see it. Compared to here, there is no grip, so it's a little bit easier to hold on to and less slippery to drop. The HX90 has a secondary control ring that's over here, and there's also, of course, one on the back where the WX500 just has the back control ring, doesn't have the ring on the lens. The HX90 has GPS enabled, so you can tag your photographs by location, which might be important for some people. It also has, if I can power this up, a very nifty little EVF. So you have a viewfinder here. Usually on these little cameras, I think the viewfinders are so crappy that I don't even consider using them. But actually, this one isn't too bad. So that might be important to someone if you really want an EVF. Other things that it has that are physical, well, that's about it. What they also did is they kind of took out some features that easily could have been incorporated in the WX90, and they left them in the the WX500, and they left them in the HX90. Now, some of those things may or may not be important to you, and they include an electronic level. So you can, for instance, get a little level on here so you know whether or not your pictures are straight, which I actually use quite a bit. You can also do manual focusing with this camera, and that includes things like peaking, where you see little lines on high contrast points, so it makes manual focusing much easier. The WX500 really doesn't do any manual focusing, so that's a pretty advanced feature on here. It also has bracketing. So bracketing means that you can do things like take things at different exposures and then combine them together and get a better dynamic range in your pictures. This also has DRO, which is it's not bracketing, but it's another way to get higher dynamic range in your pictures. That is not available on the WX500. It also has high ISO noise reduction for whatever that's worth. And the one thing that's kind of strange is that the WX500 does not have flash compensation, which the HX90 does, and that basically means that if you're too close to someone and the flash is too bright and it's kind of blowing their face out, on a lot of cameras, on most cameras really, you can dial down the flash strength a little bit and get a more balanced picture. For whatever reason, that was disabled in the WX500, but it's enabled in the HX90. So that is a boatload of different features, and I think it does justify the $100 price increase, really completely. However, and obviously this is a little bit better camera, however, I would suggest that for most people, still consider the WX500. Save that $100, use it on something else, put it in the bank, and that's because these particular cameras are not really high-end enthusiast cameras. And even if you are an enthusiast photographer, as I am, or a semi-professional photographer, what you're going to find is that in most cases, the WX500 has enough manual controls to meet your needs, and the controls are no more convenient on this camera than on this camera. So if you need to do shutter priority or aperture priority, those sorts of things, you can easily do them on both. What about the extra features? Well, in many cases, using an EVF is not that important in a compact camera. The electronic level is fine, but you can always straighten a picture in a software suite, like, well, any of them that are out there, really. You have things like, now the HDR mode is really great and wonderful on this, but there's a secret mode in here called something like HDR backlight, which is more automatic, so you don't have as much control over it, but it kind of does the same thing. And even though the WX500 does not have a flash compensation, which is something that I really like, it does a pretty good job at metering the flash. In fact, I took a selfie like this far away from me and I was not overexposed. And the thing with these cameras is that you do have the ability to tilt back a bit, and because of that you can bounce the flash and reduce the flash that way, or you put a little index, like a little business card or something, and bounce the flash up that way too. So there's many workarounds, and I think for the typical person and the particular needs for the camera, you're going to get all the utility that you need out of the WX500. Now, obviously, if you want the grip and you think that's, well, I don't even know which camera's which anymore. If you want the grip and that's really important, or if you want the EVF and that's really important, those are worthwhile features, and I think they're very nice. I just don't think for myself they're worth the additional $100 that you have to pay. So that's my opinion. If you're going to go with the Super Zoom, this is a nice one. It does the job. This one is a nice one. It does the job. This is a little more fancy. This is a little more basic. This is probably enough. Take care, everyone, and if you get some time, please give my podcast a listen. It's called Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike. My wife is also now the co-host. She's Dr. Julie. So Dr. Mike and Dr. Julie, we kind of talk about psychological stuff, but in a much more personal way. You can find it, again, on iTunes. So have a great day. Bye.